question for you. What if the strangest photos of modern life were also somehow the truest? Photographer Lars Tunbjörk turned everyday scenes from fluorescent-lit offices, Swedish suburbs, and sprawling shopping malls into surreal, funny, and somehow very honest reflections of contemporary life. I believe his work asks photographers, how do you see beauty, the absurdity, and the loneliness in the world around you? In this video, we're going to explore Tunbjork's eye for modern society, its office culture, and discover why his images, some sad, some obviously funny, remain as some of the most on-point and truest reflections of modern-day society. So grab a drink, make yourself comfortable, and let's go straight to another video. In the late 20th century, we witnessed a big shift in public life, shifting from shared and strong communal bonds to a quiet isolation introduced by an increasing online presence and global consumerism. Lars Tunbjork's photography documented this really stark change, not just as simple nostalgia for what once was, but as a sharp social critique too. His lens captured spaces where laughter and satire masked an underlying mourning for this sense of community and presence-based bond. Born in 1956 in Bara, Sweden, Tunbjork began his photography career quite early, as by the age of 15 he was already working as a newspaper photographer. He was influenced by other Swedish photographers like Christer Stromhold and American color pioneers such as William Eggleston. Tunbjork then went on to forge a style that broke from the intimate black and white tradition of his Swedish predecessors. And what Tunbjork really did in his context, and according to the information I've read, is that with his approach, he introduced a style that is arguably brighter in color, humorous, and ironic. And this style created a sense of emotional detachment that highlighted both ideas of alienation and the attempts to find meaning in the mundane or normal everyday life scenes. These choices weren't just aesthetic. He actually went on to say something quite interesting. He said, quote, "I want to be a stranger. I want to look at things a little bit differently." And his series Home and Office really reflected a society that not only has changed, but is continuously changing at the time he was photographing them. And putting this into actual perspective of the latest videos of the channel where we've been talking about this idea of can maybe we focus on beauty as a way to just communicate our, intentions? Can we, for instance, like Richard Misrat, actually focus on hiding our intentions in plain sight, in the beauty that we capture? Or can we, for instance, like today, maybe with Lars Tunbjork, take a different approach and have a bit more of a detached humor, or shall I say ironic-like style? And that can maybe be another type of communication that we can use in photography. I think it's interesting to see that and to maybe put that in perspective with the latest videos on the channel and ask ourselves the question of what can be the foundation of your style of communication, and how does that ultimately serve your goal for your stories, for your career, for whatever you're doing in your life. I guess that as we walk into a world becoming more and more extremely divisive, Tunbjork's photographs really paint an accurate picture, pun intended, in capturing or illustrating spaces that actually still resonate powerfully with us today. His images, whilst rooted in the 90s or maybe even a decade ago, remind us that what once was strange and lonely in the office is now global, echoed in Zoom calls, anonymous city blocks, and impersonal malls and buildings everywhere. In today's social media age, where photos often become only perfect surfaces, I think that Tunbjork's work shows the value of embracing contradiction, revealing both beauty and bleakness that actually coexist within the same frame. And I wanted to touch on a little bit of this colorful absurdity idea that I find in his photos. Tunbjork's transition from black and white to vivid color photography was a conscious artistic choice, as we've seen, but whereas black and white can evoke timelessness or intimacy, in my opinion, I think Tunbjork was really aware that vibrant colors can amplify the sense of irony, humor, and other ideas of, melancholia or other analogies that he wants to bring into his scenes. His palette, characterized by fluorescent greens, they're very pale blues and harsh artificial yellows and light, in my opinion, act as an emotional amplifier for the idea that these spaces, while so familiar, can at the same time be deeply unsettling because of what they represent. Take his office series as a prime example. The fluorescent lighting casts a greenish glow on really lifeless spaces with desks, that are full of papers, worn out workers, making the space feel cold, alienating. And on an interesting note, the visuals and atmospheres Tunbjork captured in his series Office were actually so distinct and evocative that they directly inspired the acclaimed TV series Severance, which captures the same eerie, claustrophobic office life atmosphere. And since we've been talking about different perspectives, we talked very briefly about Richard Misbach that used beauty to hide his, true intentions. And then we talked throughout this video about Lars Tunbjörk, who uses irony and absurdity to then convey his own perspectives. I think it's time to talk about a different perspective in terms of workflow and sharing your work with collaborators, with those that are closest to you, with clients. And so if you find that your current workflow is quite overwhelming or is quite, chaotic with email chains back and forth, I recommend trying something different. Picdrop, because Picdrop actually is a platform that allows you to streamline all your work very conveniently to those, that work with you. And with that in mind, I actually challenged a friend of mine who was traveling. I gave him a small camera, a, disposable film camera, and I said, go photograph whatever you see that is interesting and share your experience with me via Picdrop. And that's exactly what he did. Picdrop is a professional photo sharing platform designed specifically for photographers who need a streamlined way to collaborate with clients. Instead of endless email chains, Picdrop allows your clients to view your galleries and provide feedback directly on the images using color flags, comments, and scribbles, all in real time. Just like Tunbjork's careful curation of his office and home series, you can customize your galleries with your own branding, create beautiful presentations, and control exactly how your work is displayed. Your clients don't need to create accounts or even download any type of software. They simply click in a link that you will send them and immediately start reviewing and selecting their favorites. So check out Picdrop at the link in the description and see how it can transform your client workflow from something that perhaps might be a bit loose or chaotic to a true collaboration. Because now we're going to return to Lars Tunbjork and maybe discuss some interesting insights that his photography has provided me, and that in turn I think that it can be useful to share them with you in this video. So the crucial insight here for us photographers and visual storytellers in general is that color can indeed be a tool for narrative. In Tunbjork's hands, it has been, and in fact in his hands, color serves as one, a device for storytelling, and two, I think an element that produces cultural and societal critique. And I think, of course, third, it really is a vehicle for thought and for introducing thought-provoking ideas to a viewer, as it exposes absurdity by exaggerating the surreal aspects of everyday life. And it criticizes very highly these very sanitized and commercialized modern environments that really also mirror the change in our communication style. So his use of color really invites us, the viewers, to find these provoking questions, turning then the familiar into what is strange, prompting therefore reflection on human condition in contemporary life. And so Lars Tunbjork's photographs are funny, yes, but when we look past the surface, we can find in them this deep sadness, I feel, over what is lost with technological development. And he once said something that I find relevant to quote at this stage. Quote, "I tried to work with an eye that is critical and humorous, capturing moments where daily life's absurdities really can sparkle this debate in people and also let them know about this quiet sense of sadness beneath the surface." And therefore, in my eyes, his work gives me permission and us permission to embrace these contradictory feelings. That we can be, of course, very happy for, technological development and all the great things that it puts at the touch of a finger, but also lost and sad for what it has ultimately taken away. And I think I found his photography quite insightful, despite it being such an interesting and different communication style, a bit more detached, a bit more ironic than what we have been actually looking at the last few videos. I find that it's relevant to also feature different people with different visions and different styles of communication, because ultimately it's the exposure to all of these that might help in developing our own style. I think that, irony can be a great tool. I think it's one of his greatest tools, and it really has made me look at his work differently. And also, of course, I feel like watching Severance was interesting as well because it made me think of all these things. And so with that luggage, shall I say, I obviously came much more prepared for a video exploring these types of topics. And I would advise you or recommend, if you have some time, if you can, to give Severance a watch, particularly season 1. I think it's very, very interesting. I think beyond the surface and the storytelling, of course, and the love triangles and whatnot, and the narratives, plot points, whatever. I think it's very, very interesting from a critical thinking point of view, from the analysis that it draws on society. Plus, it's really entertaining. So thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate you. If you would like to check out that video, I'll link it somewhere around the screen. I've linked it already. And there's plenty of videos that you can watch below that might also be related to this. I'll try and find them and link them. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. So take care, stay safe, keep shooting, keep creating, keep learning photography, and I'm out.